I'm Hal Rubenstein, and welcome back to the Happy Grown Up Podcast, where we celebrate the millions of Americans over 50 who are more active, engaged, and excited about tomorrow than we ever expected we would be. The Happy Grown Up is the first playbook for what I like to call us new agers. Our mission is to help you discover new ways to indulge your curiosity, grab fresh opportunities, look and feel great, remain engaged and relevant, and relish the joy to be found in one more brand new day. And one of the unheralded bonuses of being a new ager is that we wield enormous economic power. And when you add that to our accumulated knowledge, as well as our enthusiasm for yet another act, it means we are one hell of a force. And yet the business world is just starting to realize that. But one of the first people to recognize our power is today's guest, Aaron Walton, whose trailblazing advertising agency, Walton Isaacson, has led with innovation and cultural engagement, transforming traditional promotional strategies. Founded in partnership with NBA legend Magic Johnson, Walton's entrepreneurial savvy has attracted some of the most prized brands shaping our lives: American Airlines, Amazon, Lexus, McDonald's, Bristol-Myers Squibb. Inducted last year into the Advertising Hall of Fame, Aaron Walton is as charming as he is wickedly smart. Aaron, I am so happy that you're here at the Happy Grown Up.
It is so great to be here. I'm going to embrace the word new aging. I'm going to own it. I'm going to, wrap my arms around it.
Thank you. I'm trademarking it, but go ahead.
As you should. That's what comes with wisdom. You understand what is real, what is ownable, and
go out and grab it. So much of what you do is about understanding image, shaping image, and presenting products to a culture that is rapidly changing, that is niche in so many different ways. Aaron has worked on everything from Lexus to Michael Jackson to Black Panther to Pepsi Cola. So frankly, there is about nothing you look at that Aaron hasn't touched at some point in time. And so what becomes that responsibility in terms of what is it that you look for when you see a product and say, how do I get it to reach that target audience, and who is that target audience?
Well, here's what I would tell you. Everyone thinks that it's just magic. You go into a room and all of a sudden you just create these beautiful ads. The reality is that it really starts with consumer insights. It starts with really trying to understand the psyche of the target that you're trying to go after, and really starting to craft something, not just in terms of the images and the words, but also the fashion, the music, how it all kind of comes together to touch their hearts and their minds and get them to feel a connection, a relevancy to the brand that you're trying to work with. Magazines do it all the time, right? In Style was a very specific magazine that understood its audience in a way that was very different than, Rolling Stone so it really does start with understanding those consumer insights. And by the way, that's how I started my career. I started my career at Pepsi is in the research department as an analyst. And so I loved how data could help talk about the people that we were trying to connect with and where we wanted to go and what the future was going to look like. And so what we do, we start there. And then we have this incredible group of writers and art directors that interpret that in a way to tell these beautiful stories, right? To tell these incredible, create these incredible pieces of art that sometimes are 30 seconds, sometimes they're an hour in a television program, sometimes it's print. It really depends. There are so many different kind of components to it. I wish it were, like Bewitched, where Darren just comes in or actually it was always Samantha.
It was Samantha who wriggled her nose and made it happen. Come on.
I know. But, by the way, I love that show. It's how I got, engaged with understanding, there's a thing called advertising. I could do that. I would love to do that. But I love kind of connecting all of those dots and understanding, the nuances of it. And I drive people crazy, right? Because if we're on a set and I look, and because fashion is so much a part of what I love, like the shirt needs to be pulled out of the jacket a little bit more so they can, but those moments, those details matter a lot. So I don't know. I think that I don't know that there's one way to get to great work other than starting with a really great brief and a great understanding of the mindset of the folks that we're trying to get to.
How does an older audience respond differently now than a younger audience to product? Or depending on the product, of course.
It depends on the product. Here's what I find really interesting. I think right now, if you look at what's going on, I think marketers are, and the entertainment industry is kind of leaning into nostalgia in a way that I find interesting. And I think it's not only great for older folks, it's also very comforting for a younger generation, because we're looking at things that at a time when, and that's why I think you're seeing so many reboots of old TV shows and music that's sampling or taking cues from things that when we were growing up and younger.
All my friends who are younger listen to disco constantly.
You know why? Because there is something joyous,
happy
about it. There is something happy about it. There is something that ties to fantasy and being in a club and just letting go and being who you want to be without any judgment. There's nothing wrong with kind of coming back to some of that and living in that moment a little bit, but understanding that things are changing and we're moving forward. And I don't think older people look at nostalgia in a negative way. I think they look at it in a way that says, God, I remember what it was like. I'm really lucky to be a part of that time, or I'm lucky to have been a part of something and seeing how progress is being made, or sometimes it's not moving as fast as we want, and we figure out how to move it forward in a different way. So I think of nostalgia in a very cool, beautiful, celebratory way that doesn't hold us back, but is a reminder of what great things had happened and where we can go.
If you're not going to recreate the time, which is impossible, but you can figure out a way, how do I revitalize that feeling? How do I revitalize that sense of freedom, that sense of possibility, that sense of joyousness? And we have to find sort of a modern equivalent given the circumstances so that we can feel something that approximates that again.
Yeah, I agree. You want to take, look, in some weird ways, we're all going through this. For those of us who own businesses and everyone's been working remotely for the last year and a half or so, and it's going to probably go a little bit longer. What we know is that we're never going to go back to the way it was prior to, pre-COVID. But what we want to do is we want to take the best parts of working at home and what that was all about, and the best parts of working in an office with colleagues and having those interactions, and bring that together in some hybrid kind of way. And I think to some degree, it's translatable to other parts of, the pop zeitgeist of what we're all kind of looking to achieve.
But I would say prior to the pandemic, look, and the numbers bear me out. Only 15% of advertising in America was aimed at anyone over the age of 35, let alone 50. Everything was so
youth-oriented. It was youth.
But it was even beyond youth. It was almost as if, like, when you're 20s, you were past it. And I don't think the future of advertising is all TikTok.
Listen, I would absolutely agree with you. I think that people, particularly now, it's a cliche to say that older people don't understand and embrace technology. And so, like,
not anymore.
Not anymore. Like, we're here. Look, I'm going to be 60 this year, right? We're here. We're embracing technology. Some of us had to do it because we had no choice and we wanted to stay connected. And this is the easiest way to do it. But I think we have done a horrible job in the industry of negating the importance of people at our age that have disposable income, that have achieved
72% of disposable income in this country is owned by people over 50.
Right. And I don't know why, and I don't know where it came from. And by the way, there are some brands that are very targeted and should be targeted to youth. But I think that most companies make a mistake by kind of walking past that generation of successful people who are comfortable in who they are, have achieved a level of success and comfort in not just status, but it really is about a level of maturity and understanding the power that we have as happy grown-ups, right? To help build brands and make brands.
In light of that, and I can tell you this story because, well, you work for Lexus and this is about your competitor. I will preface this by saying I have been a devout Mercedes-Benz customer for 2 decades. I'm in the showroom last year, trading in one lease for another. And I come in, and my salesperson, who's the same salesperson I've had for 2 decades, and Kevin's a great guy. And Kevin goes to me, he goes, "Wait till you see our new Edge. You're going to love our new Edge. It's just amazing." And I said, "Okay, fine." And I said, "Well, run it for me while I'm, waiting for my car to show up." So he runs the ad. And when it's done, he said, "So what do you think?" And I went, "It's cute." He said, "Cute? What do you mean cute?" He says, "You didn't love that car?" I said, whoa, stop. You didn't ask me if I love the car. You asked if I love the ad. I said, the car is amazing. The car, you don't have to drive anything. The car folds your laundry. It makes you coffee. It does whatever. I said, "But honey, the guy driving the car is 24. Max." And I said, "And I'm in the showroom right now. And while the ad was running, I did a fast head count. I said, there are 14 people in here in the process of either renting or buying a new Mercedes. If one of them is under the age of 50, I will double my lease payment." I said, "You're selling a car to somebody who doesn't want it. They have Uber. They have Lyft. You're pushing a product on somebody who doesn't need it, whereas the person who wants to buy the car is standing here with money in his hand saying, 'Hello, would somebody please pay the slightest bit of attention to me?' I feel here's 100 million Americans who are a majority being treated like a minority."
Here's what I would say about the age thing. And I would say that there's always balance that's important when you're doing advertising, right? Certainly we want to get newer consumers into whatever brand it is. And so you have to kind of reach out to them just like you have to reach out to an older consumer.
Right.
So it's about balance. It's not, I think some people go so far down one direction versus really finding that equilibrium. And you're right, as it relates to, minorities and diverse consumers, they have been largely overlooked forever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's astounding to me. And so what you do today will absolutely impact how you reach those folks tomorrow. People have long memories. People want to know that when you're speaking to them, you mean it and they matter to your brand. Just like we do with younger consumers or any consumers, it does matter. And I do think that one of the things that is a big mistake for a lot of brands is just kind of after 34, it's almost like they don't matter.
We don't care.
And I mean, they care, but they don't focus any efforts against them. It's not just in advertising, right? So it's kind of societal in how we tend to look at youth culture and undervalue the older consumers or older population in our country. So it's more than just about advertising. I think there's a bigger opportunity for us to start to reevaluate the importance in how we look at them. And maybe that's because I'm getting...
No, I was going to say, because now that you've crossed over, how do you see changing this? In terms of giving that older customer his or her due, how should we start changing that? How do you see starting to change this?
Well, I think part of it is understanding, from an advertiser standpoint, it's understanding the data, right? So you just talked about, what the disposable income of people over 50.
72%, and then something like 85% they control household income, because basically over 50% of people under the age of 30 now live at home.
Well, and so part of it is making sure that people understand the reality of what's versus the fantasy, right? The reality of what's out there. Yeah. And why it matters. And if you don't do it, your competitors will, and that is going to put you at a disadvantage. Again, it's balance, right? We really do. I think we have tipped the scales so far in the other direction. I think what's going to happen is that, and maybe the pandemic has helped that a little bit, because we've all had a little bit more time to stop, to reevaluate, to look at our own lives and start to peel away the things that matter, the things that have taught us, the things that have helped us to survive. I look at, folks that I know that are older and how their coping mechanisms have been so much better than some of the younger folks that have been,
Yes.
constrained by the pandemic.
Why do you think that's so?
I think part of it is a level of understanding who we are, which at a younger age, you're still trying to discover that. And part of who we are and the relationships that we have with friends are lasting, and they seem to be more powerful when we're older, right? And we've had more experience, and we have more opportunities we've had more opportunities to experience things that are still with us, can still help us kind of get out of the depression sometimes. And I'm not saying that older people aren't depressed but we've learned how to cope with that in a way that another generation, certainly a younger generation, hasn't. And I honestly think that when we come out of this, I think there's going to be a new respect for and a new understanding and a new leaning in toward people like us who have shown the world that we matter and have shown the world that we're not going to stop.
I think prior to the beginning, there was this weird dividing line where it's like, don't cross a boundary. Young people, they just know about tech, and all they want to do is get young and hang out and have experience, and they don't want to own shit. And, and all of us, we're all staying home and we're just using our anti-aging cream. I think something else happened. One is, and I think because of the technology, because you needed to learn how to use Zoom and FaceTime and stuff like that, there has been a different dialogue. And I think younger people have a fresh perspective on life. It may not, may not agree with everything of it, but it's certainly enlightened in other ways and certainly open in ways in which we're not. And on the other hand, I think what younger people have found is an enormous respect for people who are older, who have experience and know how to tell that story.
I agree. Our lives have changed, and we do start to look at the people around us and start to look at some of the other folk. By the way, two things. One, I do believe that older people have gotten a bad rap about technology. I do think that they have embraced technology, and I do think they understand that it has enhanced the world in ways that some people may take for granted, but we can see a doctor now and not have to go to the office. We can see our grandkids every day and not have to get on a plane and travel. And we figure out how to own it. But I do think that what has actually happened is that we've had to slow down. We've had to stop for a second. We've had to start to evaluate the things that really matter. And some of those things that really mattered, we look back a little bit, or we're talking about it to other people, not in this is the way it used to be, but in a way that gives a sense of comfort, gives a sense of peace, gives a sense of community that helped us survive, helped us cope with these very difficult kind of moments. And you get that through time. You get that through experience. You get that. And I think what's happened is that younger people have started to understand that there is power in that there is strength in having those type of experiences, and they will get there. And so I'm finding right now, even with my nephews and my nieces, a connection and an understanding and a celebration in a way that did not happen before. And I think that that's kind of beautiful. And I think that they have started to understand it and not devalue, not that they ever did, but I think a generation often would devalue the the experience and the wisdom and you know the life experiences that we've had, which is tremendously valuable. I also think that one of the things that has changed is that when you look at a lot of the companies, um, they have very young marketers,
Yes.
right? They've got very young marketers, and so they have traditionally kind of focused on things that they know that are youth driven as opposed to expanding that audience. And so
But
uh,
coming out of that, coming out of this as we are, does does marketing need to take a shift? And how does the marketing take a shift to realize the fact that you got a whole bunch of people with an awful lot of money out there who just are going like,
what about me?
I'm here. Like, could somebody please pay attention to me?
So I guess if the shift is meaning expanding the aperture a little bit and
Yeah.
expand, then yes, we do need to do that. I think we would all benefit from it. I don't think you're going to see any marketer all of a sudden saying, okay, we don't care about 25-year-olds and we're just going to start paying attention to year olds.
Nor should they.
And they shouldn't, because at some point those 25-year-olds are going to be 50-year-olds, and we want to
Absolutely.
we want to get them engaged in our brand, in our stories, and believing in our brand values early, so that they are loyal to us and so that they stay with us. The trick is to make sure that we don't forget about them once we got them and they get to a certain age.
Right.
They still matter. They're still important.
So I guess that's the problem is that I feel I got to a certain age and all of a sudden I became forgotten. All of a sudden, whether or not I bought a product didn't matter. And yet, part of the stuff of the aftermath of the pandemic is how much people are spending on their homes, on their properties, how little real estate there is available for sale, and that's not controlled solely by younger people. It's not. But the reality is that older people do have more put away. They realize creature comforts possibly are more satisfying. It's not that I'm saying I don't need to have experiences or have experiential moments, but I've had a lot of experiences already. And part of my experience is I really like being home. As someone who's basically created product for so many different organizations, and whether also, having worked specifically with the LGBT community and with African American community, is there something specific that needs to be aimed towards people who are older to get their attention? And it's not just about, if you put this on your face, your wrinkles will be gone by the morning, because they won't be. So
Well,
they won't be.
by the way, sometimes wrinkles are beautiful, right?
I don't mind them.
Right? It says we've lived and we've experienced something. So I don't think that it's all that bad. Here's what I think. I mean, the truth is, it's really funny. I used to travel. I was probably on the road about 80% of the time. I mean, just constantly. It was just nonstop. 2 planes a week. That's just part of the. And the truth is, I'm a homebody. I love being at home. Now's a great time to celebrate that. But that doesn't mean I'm dead. Like I've stopped. It just means like I've worked hard. By the way, I still have disposable income. I'm still paying attention to, who's actually talking to me. I'm paying attention to which brands share my values and share kind of my outlook on the world, and so I'm willing to invest in that. I'm big supporter of HRC, and I pay attention to those brands that are supporting the community. I pay attention to those brands that are celebrating, Black consumers and Hispanic. So I think people are starting. I'm feeling a shift, to be honest with you. I am feeling a shift with advertisers who have stopped for a moment and said, okay, maybe we didn't have it right. Maybe there are some things that we need to do better at being more inclusive. And that's not just about ethnicity, it's about culture, right? It's about, and culture for us, for me, is not about just, there's sneaker culture, there's women, there's age. I mean, they're all different types of things. And I think advertisers now are starting to understand the importance of tapping into that, whether it's older or younger or Black or white or Asian. It really is critical for those advertisers that want to be brands of the future.
Do you think there's anybody out there selling a product right now who's actually getting it right? Who's actually, like, they've already made the shift, again, I'm not asking you to promote competitors or something like that, but do you think that there's somebody out there who does have a really solid overview of who's out there buying product?
That's a really great question. Who do I think that is? I mean, there are some brands, and I would say more retail brands,
Yeah.
that tend to cater to a wider audience that has to understand, it's not just about the women that are coming into shop. I also need to make sure that I have product and I have a message that's going to bring in, all of the different segments. And I would say people like Macy's, for example, or Nordstrom's, or folks that are big, broad brands trying to, expand their product base and expand their audience. I think the mistake that many of them do is they get one archetype, and that's what they focus and hope that archetype brings in all these other groups. And I was like, yeah, no, you really do have to start to look at the full spectrum of potential consumers that can come in and deliver. But I don't know that any one brand yet has gotten it, knocked it out of the ballpark.
Because that's it. Sometimes I look at ads and I go, "Who are these people?" It's just, and again, it's not an age thing or an ethnic thing. It's just like, why are you casting a net so narrow? I don't get it.
Here's an example of actually a brand that I do that. I think the LA Dodgers got it right. I think the LA Dodgers understand the diversity of their consumer base, and it's not just younger kids. It's old. There's generational folks go to that. There are generational folks that embrace that. So I think some of the sports team, now there's some other things that they've got to work, not the Dodgers, but some of the others work on. But I think if you look at a brand like the Dodgers, which is bringing in Latinos, bringing in Black, bringing in older generations, younger. They have a gay night at Dodger Stadium. So they really have tried to do a great job in embracing the entire community. So I stand corrected. That is, I think, a good example of a brand that's...
Is there a way for those of us who are older to basically almost sort of exert our power, or is there a way to let brands know, you really need to pay attention to us if you have any brains here?
Brands figure it out when their competitors are gaining share. And the way you let a brand know that you matter is not either buying them, or you reach out to them. And brands are very sensitive to people, reaching out and contacting them and letting them know how they feel. But, there's nothing more that will make them pivot than their competitors, gaining share or taking share away from them.
Yeah.
And when they understand that, people over 50 are, buying their products at a disproportionately higher rate than the, 20-year-olds, they're going to pay attention. They're not going to ignore the 20-year-olds, but they're going to pay attention.
Especially like you look at something like skincare or makeup. People over 50 spend over $1 trillion on self-care. And yet it's one thing to put Helen Mirren out. Look, and I have no aspersion that Helen Mirren is divine. But she's Helen Mirren. She's not the average 70-something-year-old woman. And so it's, on one hand, it's great to see her, or Elon Musk's mom, or so like that. On the other hand, they are celebrity, in the sense that they're still a bold-faced name, as opposed to that woman who's 75 who you may not know, who is still smashing looking. And there are plenty of them. I mean, the irony, of course, is like almost every single actress that Americans revere is over the age of 50. But again,
Well, they revere them because of their skill and their talent,
right.
and not just because they look youthful. They revere them because they have a body of work that has suggested that they've experienced life, that they understand how to bring those characters to life in a way that a youthful person that has not gone through that could do, right? And so I agree with you that we want to see, and that they are revered. And even if you talk to some of the younger starlets, they're like, oh my God, it's, Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep, exactly. There you go. She's close to 70, but she's Meryl Streep and you're not.
Look at some of the models. I mean, look at some of the beautiful, models that are out there that are, probably over 50. I look at Beverly Johnson, who's a grandmother. I mean, she's fierce. She's still amazing. And I guess you would say she's, the celebrity and so, but she understands who she is. She understands the power that she has. And so, she's still revered, and she's revered by everybody.
But I get at another period in time, someone at your age who owns a company the way you do would be thinking of closing up shop or wrapping it up or looking for a successor or, quote, winding down. But you are giving me no indication whatsoever that that's what you're looking to do, other than the fact that you like staying home more than you like traveling. But you don't seem to be looking to scale back anything. And I guess what I'm looking to understand from you or for anybody else who goes, I'm in my 60s, but I'm vital and I want to keep going. What adjustments do you make? What assessment do you make with yourself to take that leap and keep on going or making it even stronger?
Listen, I am a very curious person. I think people, our age are still curious. That doesn't stop the second you become 50, right? What happens to me, and I can tell you what happened with me personally, yes, is like I stopped caring what other people were telling me I needed to be. I stopped caring about how I had to, conform to whatever it is that the people thought I needed to conform to. I was like, to hell with it. I am very confident in who I am. I'm not going to apologize for it. I am a curious person, and that doesn't stop. The journey doesn't stop the day you turn 50, 60, 70, whatever. I actually think it increases. I think there are opportunities that we have that we didn't have before. Maybe we have a little bit more time and we can go out and find those things. So for me, you're right. I'm not planning. I have no plans to retire. Why? I love what I'm doing. I love the work. I love being around the people. I love kind of figuring out those moments that are surprise and delight, those moments that bring joy, those moments that make people think differently. And that doesn't stop. And I don't know why it needs to. Why should it? Like, who wrote the rule that said, okay, we're done?
Because it was there generationally. And I think we've actually, and I think the pandemic has kind of sort of put a big stamp on it. But I think even before the pandemic, we were coming to that place where I think we've broken that mold. If people still maintain that curiosity and they still have that energy and they still have that desire, why don't you keep on going?
My advice is to not let yourself be defined by anybody other than who you are. Let you define your own journey. You define when it's time to stop. You define when it's time to pivot or to do, whatever it is that you want to do. And it's hard sometimes because we've been conditioned, like you said, we've been conditioned in a world where you work, our parents' generation, they worked, they retired, and they got the gold watch, and then that was it, and they were done. But they really weren't. I mean, the reality is they still had a lot of time to go out and do things, and there was no reason to stop. So I just say, be damned with what people are telling you should be doing, and own who you are and what you want to do. There's nothing to stop you from doing that. Yes, there are challenges out there that but the more confident you feel about who you are and owning it and not feeling like you have to apologize, not feeling like you have to explain, the more empowering and powerful it can be to live your life freely, to live your life exceptionally in ways that maybe our parents didn't feel. And by the way, the world's changed too, right? So we have to acknowledge that society has redefined to some degree in a good way. And now I think people are really understanding that, oh, wait a minute. There's way more to this and way more from me that I'm going to own and explore.
Is there a project you haven't done yet in the distance there that you go, ooh, I'd love to, I want to give that a shot?
I would love to produce a Broadway musical.
Okay.
There is something about Broadway and that storytelling and being in the center of Times Square and being in that theater and just being transformed and being taken someplace else that I find absolutely compelling. And I find that kind of storytelling compelling. At some point, I'm going to do it. Got to find the right project. But there's nothing to say that I can't. I'm not going to let, anyone tell me no. I'm going to figure out how to do it. I'm going to get the right resources. I'm going to surround myself with the right people, and we'll do something. But that's one of the goals that I have. And I don't think I would have been as good at it 10 years ago as I might be now. And I think even 5 years from now, I'll be even better at it. So like people always like, oh my God, your work's so I like it. It's fun. I enjoy it. Let me do. And so, yeah, there's balance and all that sort of stuff. But to me, if you like it and that's what you want, go do it.
It's all the justification you need. But it's also too, and there's also something too in the sense that I feel blessed, in the sense that I have communicative skills, in the sense that I feel like I've hit on something in my head that I owe it to other people who have the desire but don't necessarily understand the path they have to go to get there, to get to that goal. And I think I can help you get to that goal. So I think that's what's so important to me is that you're sitting there itching. You're sitting there itching, going, I'm older, but I still feel cool, and I want to feel cool. But how do I go out there? How do I go out there and be cool? Or how do I go out there and be that, continue to be that version of me that's inside my head? I'm looking to see where advertisers can take this thing and how they wise up. And that, when I say wise up, how they acknowledge the possibility, how acknowledge the possibility and the scope of a product through appealing to an even broader range of people than what's being put out there now.
Everyone's looking at things differently now. And I think that there is a level of reevaluation, of reassessing, of kind of seeing what matters, taking the things that really don't matter, putting them aside, and starting to really understand the impact and the power that this group has. I said it before, competition has an interesting way of making people shift how they move through the marketing world, right? And through the advertising world. But some smart person is going to figure it out. Some smart person is going to figure out how to, not always talk about anti-aging and the makeup lines that they're doing, and just talk about what this does to make you feel great and beautiful.
That's it. And like, perfect example. Anti-aging is a stupid phrase because there's no such thing. Because everybody's aging at every point in time. But it's not about anti-aging. It's just about looking good. It's looking good and feeling good.
And here's what I would also tell you. I think we have to stop vilifying anti-aging, right? We have to stop vilifying getting old, which is what I think happens often in some of those ads that I've seen.
There's a weird act of denial.
Well, it's beyond denial. It's like, you don't want to look old. It's like, why not? There's some of the most beautiful people that I know they look their age. They're amazing, and they feel great, and they look good. And so, yeah, it's going to change, I hope, because people are going to start demanding it change.
Because the reality is, it's just that you are getting older. So what?
We all are.
And yeah, stop behaving like what's on your driver's license and just behave like you. And actually, you're halfway there.
Although I will tell you, I'm not changing my driver's license picture because that was pretty amazing, and I'll never get that picture again.
I don't look anything like my driver's license photo. I think my driver's I think my driver's license picture has to be something like 25 years old. One final question: what makes you a happy grown-up?
What makes me a happy grown-up is my family, them accepting me for who I am, loving me with all my flaws, with all my crazy. There's nothing better than having that warm kind of embrace, and people really respecting and understanding what I went through to get here, celebrating that, and knowing that this isn't the end, this is just another part of the journey, and knowing that I'm surrounded with friends and family that accept me for who I am and love that and honor that and make fun of me when they need to make fun of me and praise me when I need to be praised and lift me up when I need it. So I think that's what it's all about. For me, it's always been about that. My parents are both healthy and very much a part of our lives. My nieces and nephews, I've been there to help deliver some of them and help them through crazy times and not so crazy times. And it's just joyful. It's one of those moments that you just sit back and like, wow, how did I get here? And I don't know sometimes, but I'm just happy that I'm here, and I'm happy that I'm here in this moment. And the other thing I would tell you, my 2 dogs keep my heart going. So
dogs are good.
Right.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of The Happy Grown Up. And if you want to hear more about all the ways you can be inspired to be new aging, whether it's self-care, travel, relationships, health, creating a next act, dealing with challenges, finding romance, or just getting off on that special person you see in the mirror, please subscribe to our newsletter at thehappygrownup.com. It is such a gift to be all grown up these days, and it sure as hell beats the alternative. You can worry, but be happy.